Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our weekly webcast. Today we will do something a little different. We will not do a partial webcast, we'll do a holiday webcast. This will be the last class before Pesach. So I will talk about the upcoming holiday of Passover, which we will be celebrating in about 12 days. We all know that in Pesach there is the great prohibition of eating chametz, leaven. Anything that is leavened. The prohibition of not eating leaven is so severe that the smallest amount is already a major violation. You can have a crumb in your possession and you have violated the law of Pesach. You could have if a one crumb of chametz falls into a pot the size of this room and gets mixed in, and you can't identify and you can't find it, the whole pot is not usable anymore. That's how severe the prohibition of chametz is. That's not the case with any other prohibition in the Torah. For example, if a tiny crumb of pork falls into a pot this size, the whole pot remains kosher because it becomes nullified 1 to 60. In a ratio of 1 to 60, it's kosher. But that's not the case with chametz. Chametz, the smallest amount that falls into the largest amount, the whole mixture becomes prohibited. That's how severe this prohibition is.
You judging us.
I'm not judging.
I'm kidding.
I'm a judge.
I'm kidding.
So now, I want to talk tonight about this prohibition. And you will see the brilliance of the sages' enactments and how they all deal with some of the most relevant psychological inner workings of the human condition. So here we begin. What do you have to do in order to get rid of the chametz?
Clean.
Sell it.
Sell it.
You have to.
Clean
Well,
and burn it.
what do we do? Oh,
We burn it.
you clean your house, and everyone knows the wonderful tradition of the night before Passover.
The feather.
We go around with a candle in our house,
The feather.
and we look for chametz all over our home, our house.
Well, spring cleaning.
We do a spring cleaning before, and then hopefully there's not much left. And you go around searching for the chametz, and what do you do with the chametz that you find? The next morning you burn it. You get rid of it, you burn the chametz. You have a whole ceremony of burning the chametz on the morning before Pesach. That's one method of ridding ourselves from chametz. The next method of ridding ourselves from chametz, what happens if in your house you went looking, but you missed it? You didn't look good enough. You thought you looked and you didn't look. You missed something. So now you have some chametz left over in your kid's pocket. That kid's, your kid has a pocket, a jacket pocket, and you put a cookie there one day and you forgot to look in the pocket, and now there's a cookie in your house. And you didn't burn it. So how do you save yourself from the prohibition of possessing chametz on Pesach? You see, the prohibition of chametz is not only against eating it, it's against possessing it. You're not even allowed to have it in your home, in your house. Forget, let alone eat it.
There is a prayer for it.
Oh. So what we do in order to save ourselves from such kinds of prohibitions, we're only human, and as much as we search and look and find, we still could always miss something. Be something in a corner, under a bed, under somewhere, who knows? You're going to move every piece of furniture, and some people do that. And even then they may miss something. So what do you do with those missed chametz items? What you do is, the morning and the night before Pesach, you make a declaration. The declaration reads, all the chametz that it says it like this, all leaven that I've not found in my search, and I've not burned, which may remain in my possession, I am hereby declaring it ownerless. It's no longer mine. And the law is that you're not allowed to possess your chametz on Pesach. But if it's not yours, it's no problem if it's still in your house, not visible. That means like this: if you have a cookie in your kids' winter coat and it's hanging in the winter closet, you don't even know about it. So you can say, wait a minute, you possess chametz on Pesach, but once you declared it ownerless, it's not yours anymore. And the Torah is very specific. You're not allowed to possess your chametz, but that of someone else or no one's, it's now ownerless, is not your prohibition. So there we have a situation where even the chametz that we didn't burn was still, it's not our problem anymore. You have a question?
That may sound like to maybe someone who is not that familiar that it's okay to hold your neighbor's chametz.
It is.
What do you mean?
You're allowed to hold your neighbor's chametz if she's not Jewish.
No.
Non-Jewish person's chametz is allowed to be in your house if it's
Okay, but not a Jewish person's chametz. You're not allowed to have...
Of course not. A Jewish person's chametz is not.
Okay, but I'm just saying, it sounds like I didn't...
In other words, if a non-Jew puts his chametz in your house and goes away to Australia for 6 months, it's not your prohibition. That Jew that's in Australia is violating a prohibition of owning chametz on Pesach, but you're not. So what should you do? A guy is supposed to come back, he didn't appear, he didn't come back to take it.
But she took responsibility.
If she took responsibility, it could be a problem. If you took responsibility, then there may be a problem. So you have to rid it. You have to get rid of it. You have to sell it. You have to get rid of it. It could be a problem. But let's not go into all the intricate details of the problem of owning chametz. I'm giving you the 3 basic issues. One is to get rid of it through fire. One is that which you did not find, you nullify and make it ownerless. But what happens now with someone that owns Publix? He's a Jew. A Jew owns Publix. In Publix, you go through the shelves, there's cereal, that's chametz, there's bread, that's chametz, there's 90% of the store is chametz. Besides the fruits and vegetables, everything is chametz in that store.
He gives a deed to it.
So what do you do with that?
Sell it to a goy.
He sells
Oh,
it to
now
someone.
you don't want to burn that chametz.
Right.
And you certainly can't make it ownerless because then you're going to lose $1 million of inventory. Then when now it's not yours
He
anymore,
sells
anyone
it
can come and take it.
temporarily?
So what he does is he sells it to a non-Jew for those 8 days.
Temporarily. And then he buys
No,
it
he
back?
sells it to the Jew, and then he buys it back from him
Right.
after Pesach. That's what we call the sale of chametz.
Right.
We all know about it.
Yeah.
You sign a
You have a
document before
certificate.
chametz, and you sell it to the rabbi. You give the rabbi power of attorney, and the rabbi goes and sells it to a non-Jew.
In theory, we sell millions of dollars.
Millions
to
of
the goy.
dollars of worth of
Like
chametz.
in Israel, it will be
Millions of dollars,
Yeah.
absolutely. So what does he do? He pays a down payment of a minimal fee, and and if he wants to later not exercise his right and own the chametz and use it, and then you say you have to pay full market value. But if not, he can sell it back to you right after chametz, right after Pesach, and it's yours again. You pay him back. You make a down payment by paying back what he did with a little bit extra. So he made money on the transaction. You're fine. That's also a whole to do. How do you sell it? What kind of contract? And there's a lot of details, which I don't want to get into tonight. So you have there's 3 ways of ridding yourself from chametz: burning, declaring ownerless by nullifying it, and then by selling it. But the interesting thing is, in the first 2 cases, you're not getting back that chametz. The ones you burned, you're certainly not getting back. The ones you nullified and made ownerless, you're not interested in it. The third chametz you want back after Pesach. You'd like to get it back after Pesach. You're only selling it for those 8 days, so you save yourself from the prohibition of owning chametz on Pesach. But you want to retrieve it back into your life after the holiday is over. And all 3 are important in the observance of Pesach. We do all 3. And now let me discuss with you the psychological side of all of this. What is chametz in the psyche of a Jew? Ego. Chametz is the leaven. It arises, right? It's the difference between chametz and matzah. Chametz is leaven that rises, whereas matzah is humble. It's flat.
Flat.
It does not rise. Correct? Those two conditions reflect the conditions within each one of us. Every Jew has within him chametz and matzah. These two conditions, these two traits. At certain times we feel very chametzdik. We're very self-centered, we're very egotistical, we feel that it's all about me, I'm important, my self-importance, and so on and so forth. We are puffed up. We're a balloon. It's not sometimes it's a hot air balloon, but sometimes it's not.
Well said.
Sometimes we have an ego because we have what to feel egotistical about, but still negative, it's still an ego. When a real scholar feels, oh, I'm such a scholar, it's an ego, but it's at least he has got something back, there's something behind that ego. There's some people that are ignoramuses and they say, wow, I'm a big man, I'm a this. So his ego it's a balloon. What do you want to belong? It's air. But in either way, it's negative. It's a negative trait to feel egotistical about yourself. Matzah is the Jew that is humble. He does not rise, he doesn't feel himself important.
So
Every person.
So we have to be matzah all year?
Oh, no, listen here.
Okay.
That's a very good question. So the Torah prohibits us 1 week a year from having chametz. Because the Torah wants us to get rid of, to burn away that ego. It wants us to get rid of the ego. Now he has a good question. Why is chametz ever permitted? It should be prohibited all year round. It's a negative thing, ego. So let's understand, first of all, let's take an example of a chametz trait in our own life. And I'll leave this up to you to think of something that you are, that you have, that you know, a negative within yourself that you would consider chametz, one that you should really get rid of. Let's take a person, for example, that has a terrible obsession with, he loves, I don't know, let's say he loves meat, or, I don't know, he loves, what do people...
Ice cream.
Ice cream. The person has this terrible obsession. They can't get enough of ice cream. They can't get enough of it.
Kosher.
Every opportunity, it's almost like they're addicted to it. What does a person have to do when you have an addiction like that?
Break it
Completely.
down.
To eat so much that he will hate it.
No, this person doesn't hate it. He eats just as much as he wants.
To break it.
Cold
But
turkey.
The
it's
first
matter
thing
of
is that's
Abstinence.
a chametz. That's a piece of chametz that he has to deal with, and he has to not get rid of it. There's three methods. There's three things you have to do in dealing with this type of obsession. The first thing is you have to burn it. Burn it means push it, throw it out of your house. On one morning decide, I am no longer allowing myself to be obsessed by this. This is bringing me down. This is destroying me. It's not allowing me to focus. I'm always, let's say drugs. God forbid a person's on drugs. He's addicted to drugs. His whole life is messed up. So what do you do the first thing? You wake up one morning and say, that's it, enough. You throw it out of your house. You take all the different things that you had in your house, all those drugs, you push it, throw it out. And you remove it from your system. It's like burning the chametz, getting rid of the ego, getting rid of the obsession, getting rid of the negative. But how do you heal yourself from this negative? Just by throwing it out of your house? You didn't heal yourself. So you have to continuously fight it. This is terrible. Eating, having this drugs is terrible. You have to convince yourself and talk to yourself and work on yourself. And all day long, tell yourself how terrible this is. Is that going to be is that a good idea? To some degree, you have to do that. You have to talk down at this and say to yourself, this is terrible. But it's not if you're going to be all day long occupied with getting rid of chametz, you're dealing with chametz all day long. Your head's in chametz all day long. So what's the next thing you have to do? You have to nullify it. You have to declare it ownerless, nullification of chametz. This is the second thing we do with the chametz. What does nullify the chametz mean? I'm not going to even deal with it. You can't sit and think about the negative all day long, because then it's going to catch up with you again. You have to remove that from your mind and start focusing on something positive. It's not enough to just throw away the negative, because the negative will come running back after you. It's like a boomerang. If you're going to be focused on the negative, even fighting it, even rejecting it, but your head's involved in it all day long, it's no good. Like the chassid that once came to the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Rebbe, and he told him, he spoke about his business, and he was describing, he happened to have a business of the galoshes, galoshes, the boots, rubber boots. So he was telling the Rebbe how he does it. He goes and he buys and he sells, and it's a whole thing. He has stores and he's a wholesaler. And he's going on for about 15, 20 minutes, and the Rebbe turns to him and says to him at the end, he says, Rabbi Yankel, I've heard of people putting their feet in the galoshes, but I never heard of a person putting his head into his galoshes.
Very good.
Your whole head's in it. If your head is involved in the negative, it's not good either. Even if you're rejecting it. What you have to do is to rid yourself, really heal yourself from the negative. You have to be focused on the positive. So after you burn it, you have to then nullify it. I have nothing to do with this. It's ownerless. I want nothing. I don't want to think about it, not positive, not negative. I want to focus on something positive. So you start reading good books, you start learning Torah, you start getting involved in voluntary work and helping the poor, helping the needy. I don't want to think about drugs. Because even if I think of it in a negative way, my head's there. And I don't want my head to be in that. So you nullify the chametz. In order to get rid of chametz, you have to nullify it. You have to burn it and then nullify it. That which you didn't yet burn. That which you burned, you burn. But then there's always that which you're afraid is going to come crawling up on you again. So you can't deal with it. You can't think about it. You have to nullify it and get rid of it. But here comes Meir's beautiful idea. What about the chametz, the other 357 days a year, which we're permitted to eat chametz? And not only are we permitted to eat chametz, sometimes it's a mitzvah. Challah on Shabbos is a mitzvah, which is pure chametz. We know that. Right? What's the answer? So till now I spoke about drugs. Drugs talk is a terrible thing, because it's a pure negative. But let's say a person has an obsession with something that's not so negative. Like I said, with ice cream. Or a person is obsessed with pickles.
Coffee.
Coffee,
is
exactly.
a drug.
Someone's obsessed with coffee.
I like the ice cream better.
What do? So the first thing you have to get rid of it. It's bringing you down, get rid of it, burn it. Second thing is you're going to focus on it all day long, it's also no good, nullify it. Then, is there something really inherently wrong with coffee? Coffee could be a great thing. God created it.
You can elevate it.
It can be sanctified. And you, if you burn it, nullify it, you'll never have the opportunity to sanctify it. So what do you do in order to you don't want to divorce yourself from something God created that can potentially be a good thing. But the problem is you're obsessed. So right now this thing's not a good thing for you. It's bringing you down, it's destroying you, it's chametz in your life. It's destroying you, it's causing your So the first two things you have to do is get rid of it and nullify it. You can't be involved with this stuff. But ultimately the purpose of it all is to buy it back after Pesach. To reintroduce it into your life once you are healthy again. Once you are healthy again, we want you to buy back the chametz and reintroduce it into your life in good measure. Not in an obsessive way, where it can become a positive thing in your life rather than a negative. Not everything in other words, if you're obsessed with something that has destroyed you, you got to get rid of it. Right. But you don't have to get rid of it forever. There's a certain element of that chametz that you sell to a non-Jew. in order for you to be able to go and buy it back after Pesach. What does it mean to sell it to the non-Jew? Remove it from your possession right now, but only temporarily. So ultimately, these things that have because of your negative nature, have brought you down and caused that very thing became a negative in your life, a piece of chametz in your life, has turned you into an egotistical maniac with your obsessions and all that. God said, my friend, you got to get healthy before you do anything. I don't want you to sanctify it right now. You're not up to sanctifying this. You have no method of sanctifying this. This is just going to destroy you. So burn it, nullify it. I want, burn it first, and then get focused on positive, and nullify it, get focused on positive. But ultimately God says, I created this. And I'd like you too, once you're beyond your obsession, to once again take it back, not to 100 cups a day, 1 or 2 cups a day, make a bracha on it, let it help you learn, let it awaken you, and make it a positive in your life. The same thing with every other thing in life. If it's ice cream, if it's pickles, if it's whatever.
You can say
money. Yeah, money the same thing. Money the same thing. So some people, money is the biggest chametz in their life. It drives them crazy.
Because it should be a servant and not a master.
Exactly. Some people became a master in their life. If they became a master, what you have to do then is burn the money. I don't mean that literally.
If you do, bring it
Give it away to Chabad. Give it away to Chabad.
How did I know that?
Give it away to Chabad, and then sit down and learn and stop running after making money, nullify it, get involved in something positive. But ultimately, money is a powerful thing that can make you closer to God also. So God says, no, this is not a sin. You turned it into a negative. That doesn't mean it's always a negative. Let me give you an example of chametz that can be a positive. What did we just say? Ego, right? Chametz represents the puffed up Jew. Man that can't get enough of himself. He's just always proud of himself. Is that a negative? It's a negative. If you're proud of yourself and it's a negative.
Yes.
But let me give you an example where it's not such a negative. When a person goes in the middle of the street with his yarmulke, in an environment where that's not so common, and you ask him, why are you going around with a yarmulke? He says, I'm a proud Jew. I'm not ashamed of my Judaism. So that is already pride, but it's not ego. It's a very different thing. It's not an ego. That's pride. Jewish pride is a good pride. That's good chametz. He rises, he feels proud. That's rises. It's leavened bread. But that's good leavened bread. That's challah on Shabbos. That's not chametz on Pesach.
Mendelssohn will not agree with you.
Mendelssohn holds that you should be in your house a Jew.
Yes.
Because he was takat shtikul chametz.
Yeah.
Right.
But a real Jew is supposed to be proud of his Judaism inside and outside. But that's already chametz. That's pride, but it's good pride, it's positive, it's godly pride. So God says chametz all year round is not prohibited. He wants us to have chametz all year round. But He wants it to be balanced. You know how you balance out your ego and pride for God? Is when 8 days a year you stay away from chametz completely. When you get rid of the chametz for 8 days a year, then the other 357 days you can have Jewish pride and not be an egotistical maniac. So chametz, you ask, why do we allow to eat chametz all year round? That's why, because chametz is not a negative. It doesn't have to be a negative. The reason it's a negative on Pesach is because the human nature is where we're very self-centered, we're self-oriented, we're self-conscious, so we all fall into this egotistical negative attitude. So Hashem says, wait a minute. That's no good. Burn the chametz, nullify it, but ultimately I want you to buy it back. I want you to introduce pride into your life, but my pride. Pride of me over me. Proud to be a Jew, proud to be a father, proud to be a mother, proud to be a servant of God. That's pride, that's chametz, but it's good pride. But in order for that pride not to become negative ego, a negative ego, you have to be Pesachdik for 1 year, 1 week, a year. So that's the balance. So the 3 methods of getting rid of the chametz that the rabbis introduced, you don't realize how they understood human nature. how to get rid of the inner chametz, the inner psychological chametz that we all have to deal with. And everyone has an obsession with something. Call it money, call it honor. People are obsessed. That's the way to deal with it. Burn it, nullify it, get involved in positive things so you can not be focused on the negative all day long. And then, when you no longer have this thing bringing you down, you can bring it back into your life. Buy it back. That's the third method of selling chametz in order to buy it back. There's always an element of that negative that God doesn't want you to rid yourself completely. He wants you to sell it and then reintroduce it into your life when you're a healthy, balanced individual again, after Pesach. And with that in mind, I want to wish everyone a happy and a healthy and a kosher Pesach.
That was very good.
And you should enjoy your matzah and get rid of your chametz.
Thank you. Everything in the name of God is a good obsession in theory. And
Yes. Give me an example. For example?
In example, let's say we spoke before, I study Torah, I study 1 hour, it's not enough, I need 2 hours.
That's
I study 2 hours, it's not enough, I need 3
So I'll
hours.
tell you.
Okay.
If your wife is home alone, and you went from work, you went straight to the synagogue to learn for 6 hours till 12 midnight, I'd say that's a terrible obsession.
Yeah.
Because your wife is getting the brunt, she's being neglected. And maybe your kids are being neglected, or even if you don't have kids that age anymore, but your wife is being... You need a balance in life. Every obsession is no good. Obsession in general is not such a good thing. There are certain things that is good
So
to
there is
the
no
extreme.
just white, there is no just black.
No, there is. For
There is
example,
gray.
love.
Huh?
You say, I love my kids to the extreme. That's a good extreme.
Yeah.
That's good. But usually extremes is not good. I'm going to learn 24 hours a day. I won't make money. I won't provide. I won't do it. That's not a way to live. God doesn't want that. That's a negative obsession. It's an obsession for Torah, but it's not proper. But obsession, I love God to death. I love my kids to death. It's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with it. That's a good extreme. People say extremes are no good. Depends what the extreme is.
That's why the Goyish, the Holy One, don't get married.
That's a terrible thing.
Yeah. In
It's a
Judaism.
big mistake.
In
No,
Judaism.
in life.
Yeah.
In God's program, it's a bad thing not to get married. God wants people to marry, bring children to the world, and populate the world, and make it a perfect place for God.
Okay. Shall call.
Have a good night, everyone.